Am I the a-hole for refusing to buy my husband an expensive car even though I have the money? My husband, male 35, and I, female 30, have been married for the past 10 years, and we have 5 amazing daughters together. Because of that, I dropped out of college and have been a stay-at-home mom for the past 10 years when we had our oldest daughter. My husband is the breadwinner, and I take care of all the chores and childcare. While my husband earns quite a bit of money, which allows us to live comfortably, he is also obsessed with budgeting. Thus, I typically only have enough for household expenses. For the past 5 years, I have been working on a series of books. I have been writing everywhere I could. 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, and while I sacrificed a lot of sleep, I have managed to finish my series, unbeknown to my husband. I kept it a secret because he always considered it a waste of time. It was tough, but I managed to get an agent and was incredibly lucky to get a deal to have my series published. I was ecstatic, and when they told me how big my advance would be, I almost fainted. It's much more than I expected for a first-time deal, like in higher 5 digits. I haven't told my husband yet that I had to borrow money from my sister to get an accountant. Ideally, I want that money saved up should something happen because I honestly don't know the details of our home finances or for our kids' future, whatever will be needed. Plus, I would love to have some spending money without asking my husband Greg. However, Greg found my contract, and he is now demanding I get him a new car for Christmas. A very expensive new car, which cost the majority of my advance. I politely refused, saying that he didn't need a car that expensive, and that money was supposed to be saved up. I tried to explain my position, but he wouldn't have it. He basically called me an a-hole without actually using the word. He said that because he supported me all these years, I owe him, and without him and his money, I wouldn't be where I am now. He's told me that I either buy him a car, or I have to start paying for household expenses half and half. The thing is, I would still be a stay-at-home mom, and I don't know if my book will be a success. For all I know, this will be the only money I will ever get from my book deal because it will flop. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to buy my husband a car even though I have the money? Now for the top comments. Everyone sucks here. You have lived off his money for years, but you keep your own income a secret? Yeah, you're the a-hole. Mind you, he is definitely the a-hole too for demanding an expensive car and the way he spoke to you. But why would his money have to go to the household and your money to you? I wanted to work, but he insisted I was stay-at-home mom. I was going to come back to work when all our kids are in school, but he kept wanting more children, which kept pushing me further from coming back to work. I never wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, but it was his dream, and with so many kids, it was only reasonable. I don't have access to our main account. I don't even know how much he earns. I only thought it's fair that I kept my money aside, because I know very well that he has his own savings account separate to our main money. OP, everything you've said here is alarming and points towards abusive behaviors. Do not give him a dime of your money. And please, have a hard think on whether this is the way you want to continue living your life. I know you have 5 kids together. I get it and understand. A 10-year marriage is a long time to throw away, but I was married to someone for years who mentally and emotionally mistreated me. He demanded that I hand over all of my money to him and would never let me have a dime. He told me my money was his to do what he wanted with it, threw away all of his money on drugs and God knows what else. It even controlled the finances and hid them from me, while he paid none of the bills and lost every place we tried to live in, forcing us to constantly be evicted. I wanted to get a job at a time but couldn't, because he took the only vehicle we had at a time and never allowed me to go anywhere, not even with him because he was too busy meeting up his drug buddies and wanted to keep it a secret. Your situation is not as extreme, but your husband is also abusive. He is controlling and entitled. He is extremely critical of you and doesn't respect your life goals or even any of your wishes. Even worse, he ridicules your hopes and dreams. And now that you succeeded at doing something he said you could never do, he is now demanding that you spend the money on him. You are being manipulated. There is no doubt about it. You're also being blackmailed and punished by being told you'll face serious consequences if you don't give him what he's demanding. I would not buy him a car. You do not owe him a thing. The only thing you owe him is to pack suitcases for you and your kids and to demand you either straighten up or I'll leave. Not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend she should have asked me to move in? My girlfriend, 26 female, and I, 27 male, have been together for just over a year. She'll be graduating in January from graduate school and has a well-paying job lined up. Her parents bought an apartment years ago as an investment property, and she'll be living in it and taking over the mortgage. It's a very spacious 2-bedroom. That will be a total of $2,300 per month, which average in our area. It's pretty pricey and costs over half of her monthly income, so I was concerned about her living there alone. This is when I suggested that I move in. It's a great space, and we would have our own rooms, and would get to live together, and she would be able to have a more affordable rent. I currently live by myself, and my rent is $2,000 a month, so it would help me too. So basically, win-win-win. She said she's always lived at home, and so she wants to be by herself before deciding if she wanted to live with anyone else for a while, and not to worry about it and should figure it out. I thought maybe her parents would help out with the rent, and I dropped it. Then last week, she told me about how she was excited to move in soon, and then told me she'd gotten a roommate and they'd been furniture shopping together. Her roommate is a girl she completed grad school with. Obviously, I was hurt. I offered to move in first and we're dating, which I think means more than a classmate. I also said how having a roommate is not very be by herself of her. She said she thought we were too early in our relationship to live together, and living with a partner is different from living with a friend. I think she's just making excuses for blindsiding me. I said she should have at least considered me and that I was hurt that she put a friend above me, when I honestly and genuinely try to help her. I've kinda accepted that she's moving in with her classmates, and I've been cordial about it so she can be excited about this move and her new job. But I'm still hurt. Am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. You're dating. You aren't married. She has stated outright she's not ready to live with a boyfriend. You can be hurt as you're entitled to your feelings, but at the same time, do you really want to force something on her she isn't ready for? Also, living with a friend is massively different than living with a romantic partner. It just is. That you don't get that is a little red flaggy. I mostly agree with you, but she did initially tell him she wants to be by herself, not she's not ready to live with a boyfriend. I would understand why he's upset that she would then get a roommate, because that's definitely not the same as being by herself. But I completely agree that living with a partner is a completely different beast than just having a roommate. And Opie needs to realize that. My guess is that it was just simple miscommunication with her initial comment. It could just be a matter of phrasing though. I moved out on my own from my mom's place when I went to college, but I still had roommates. She could have meant she wanted to live with not family/partner before making that commitment. Learning how to live with a roommate will also better prepare her to live with a partner down the line. You're the a-hole. You're attempting to emotionally manipulate someone into taking a romantic step they explicitly said they aren't ready for. Asking to move in when you weren't invited was already borderline. Pretending to be blindsided that your girlfriend doesn't want you to move in after she clearly communicated that is ridiculous. You were not entitled to live in your girlfriend's home. You keep saying you were trying to help? I don't buy that at all. Why are you so upset that she doesn't need your help? Agreed. He's trying to help himself to her spacious apartment, less rent, and pushing her boundaries on living with a partner. I don't see him lasting much longer with his cordial attitude. You're the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my boyfriend he needs to move? For context, I, 30 female, have been dating my boyfriend, 31 male, going on a year. When we first met, he let me know that he is divorced with 3 children, 6 male, 4 female, and a stepson, 8 male that he considers his son. He also let me know his situation was unique and he was okay if I didn't want to continue dating. Him and his ex-wife are great friends. They simply got married too young and realized they were different people. Neither wanted to split custody, so they turned their home into a duplex. That way they could both see the kids every day, and if his son wanted to see him, he could just come over. I cannot have children, and he explained he would not have more. Although it was a unique situation, he is a great guy, so I kept it going. Now a year in, he still is a great guy and I love him. However, I can't help but feel like I'm on the side of the real family. The ex still comes to all the holidays, the kids knock and can come in whenever. One of the kids is not really even his, but still has open access to him. I think now that we're serious, things need to change. I suggested a move so that we can maintain a life outside of the family, and he can move on. Well, he blew up and called me an a-hole for suggesting it. He said he isn't and never will be a weekend dad. But I'm just trying to look out for us and start our family. My sister agrees I'm the a-hole, since he was upfront. But am I really? Would having him move out really be an a-hole thing? Now for the comments. Isn't your role be the romantic partner? Did you want to be his daughter too? No, I want to be family. I want to come up with holiday traditions or be going to his mom's house. But his ex still does that, and I feel like a side piece. Info. Do you and his ex get along? Why can't you all spend holidays together? We tolerate each other. As far as I know, she doesn't mind me. I get the impression she doesn't really care about me at all. And I can be there. But then I'm at her house with her kids, doing her traditions, and it feels like I'm with her husband. I feel like you're the a-hole here. You knew his situation going into this. It works for them, so there's no reason to move. You feeling outside of family is a you issue. It doesn't mean you need to separate him from his kids. From reading your comment, you feel outside of family because you don't like their parenting arrangements. Well, guess what? He was parenting these kids long before you came into his life. He'll still be parenting them after you leave. It actually sounds like they have an amazing arrangement, and it certainly wouldn't stop you having a life together if he didn't move. Because they still operate as a family other than romantically. I feel like I'm only feeling the romantic part, but he has his family. One of the kids is not really even his. You're the a-hole. Wow. Right? I hope he sees this and leaves her. You're the a-hole. His kids are already his family. And if you want to be a part of it, then you're gonna have to accept the kids. From the way it sounds, you didn't ask him to move in with you. You asked him to move away from his kids. Last story. Am I the a-hole for abandoning my wife on Christmas to be with my grieving friend? This gets brought up in every single argument we have, so I'd like an outside verdict to settle it once and for all. My wife and I, 29 male, chose to spend Christmas with my in-laws last year. Because they live a few states from us, we don't get around to seeing them in person very often. We both took time off work and flew in the week before the 25th. It wasn't my dream way to use my personal time off or spend holidays, but it was valuable family time for my wife that we hadn't gotten in a while. 2 days after we arrived, I got a heart-wrenching call from my closest friend, 26 male, telling me that his father likely wasn't going to make it. I knew he had been in the hospital for a while, but now it looked like things were taking a turn for the worst. This is someone I've known since I was 16, whose family I'm closer to than my in-laws. This is also a person who is extremely selfless and rarely asks for anything for himself. When he asked me to come be with him, I dropped everything to make that happen. There's no limit on what I would do for him on a good day. So in circumstances like these, coming home felt like the only option. Flights around that time aren't always easy to come by, and the one I booked was fairly expensive. In my rush to get home as quickly as possible, I ended up booking the ticket under mine and my wife's shared bank account. Once I realized this mistake, I immediately transferred money from my account to cover it. My wife was not happy about any of it. She begrudgingly offered to come with me, but I declined, saying the most of my time would likely be spent in a hospital waiting room. I didn't want her to be at home alone during the holidays, or awkwardly standing by a comforted friend. I reassured her that I would be back before the 25th, and that she should continue her family time as usual. That didn't end up happening. Friend's father passed the following day, and with grief, funeral preparations, and a lack of viable flights, I didn't end up going back to be with my wife and her family. Me missing Christmas has gotten thrown in my face a lot since then, and it always makes me uncomfortable. I know I hurt my wife, but sometimes it's difficult for me to sympathize with her in this situation when my friend was going through the worst time of his life. Am I the a-hole? Why did you promise you'd be back by Christmas? The dad was dying, right? But you thought you'd leave, spend a day flying home, a day with your buddy, a day flying back, and that was enough? Honestly, it sounds implausible that you'd fly out a week before the 25th, spend 2 days, then a day of travel there and a day back, and anticipate you'd have the perfect flight available for returning without checking. Did you honestly think you could make this work? It was more of a platitude than anything, I'll admit. I had a flight to catch and was expected to give an answer about when I'd make it back before I could go. I didn't have those answers yet. Yeah, that's the problem. You lied because you were too scared to be honest, and your wife is still angry. Unless you are currently writing from your in-laws' home where you returned for a do-over, you're the a-hole. Must be tough liking your friend more than your wife, and his family more than yours. I wouldn't say it's tough liking his family more than my in-laws. All family dynamics are complicated, and who we get along better with is because of a lot of different factors. My life and his life have been so entwined over the last 10 plus years that it just makes sense in my mind. His little brother feels like my little brother. His parents feel like my own, etc. You're the a-hole. You didn't want to spend Christmas with your wife's family and used the aftermath as an excuse. If it was really because of flights, you wouldn't have added the rest. I hope you're spending this Christmas with your wife's family to make up for it. Yes, exactly. In fact, I'm sure he was behind his best friend's father's death just to get out of spending Christmas with her family. This is really reaching. Nowhere is it stated that he has any issues with or wants to get away from her family.